So we're running low on time here, so I'm gonna skip a couple questions. I'm gonna go to the fan questions here.
Oh, we have some fan questions?
We have
Sweet.
fan questions.
Nice,
Yes.
let's do them.
So let's make sure we get these in. So first, for the fan questions, how much attention do you pay to panels and the overall layout writing Eclipse, and how important is the pacing of the book?
Wow, the great question. Whoever gave that question, great question. The paneling is super important. It's also where I put the most pressure on myself, and because I feel that pacing is one of the most essential high-level facets to a comic book. I mean, you need a good story, you need good characters, you need good art, you need all these things, but pacing is where the masters define themselves. And so I am really trying to learn how to pace as best I can. So I put a lot of attention on pacing, and how much story do I put into a book, or how little. I want there to be enough action. I want there to be enough character. I want there to be enough mystery. And in terms of the actual layouts of the page, it's interesting. I put less attention on it into the script. I give Giovanni a lot more flexibility. In the beginning, I would say, this is 5 panels, and here's the way it is, and I was much more specific. Now I'll say to him, this is 5 or 6 panels, and this panel could be split up into 3 small panels, or it could be 1, and hey, these 2 pages, I think there's a splash page potential, but if not, here it breaks down into 10 panels over 2 pages. You can decide where the page break is. I mean, I give him a lot more freedom, but then in turn, what's evolved in our collaboration is he sends me the layouts, and so I think most of our collaboration takes place in the paneling layout. He'll send me his interpretation from the script, and then I'll say, could we do this, and can we do this, and what do you think about this? And once we've got the panels locked and we've come to agreement, he pretty much goes off and rips out pencils and inks. I have very little to say about it. He's a master. I let him do what he wants to do. The layouts is where we collaborate the most in terms of the paneling. But it's I like, as I write the script, putting less pressure on myself to define what it is in the script and allow more of it to come out through the process of collaborating with the artist. Give him a chance to influence what he thinks it can be, and then just to fine tune it together. That's where, and that was very different than when I started. So that's the process for that.
Nice. Very good answer, sir. Our next fan question is, are there any people or fictional characters that inspired you when you were developing your characters for Eclipse?
Are there any people or characters that inspired me as I was developing Eclipse? I think I looked at movies like Blade Runner and Seven, which I thought had a quality to them that I wanted to emulate. And so I definitely looked at Decker in Blade Runner as a source of inspiration. I think Bax is very different than him. Bax is more blue collar. Bax is different. But I wanted that quality, and I definitely tried to draw inspiration from Seven in terms of the killer's methodical nature. I wanted the killer to be more clever than the people he was going up against. I wanted you to go, damn, this guy is smart. So that was something I came to realize from looking at some properties like that. I don't think I've never been the kind of writer that goes, yeah, that guy's my best friend. I turned him into a character, and no, I just don't. My character creation is far more organic in terms of, I don't draw from people I know. Okay. But I do draw from stories and experiences I know, and I there's too much influence out there not to. So yeah, those were a couple touchstones. I don't think there's any. I'm not sure if there's any others.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I have one more fan question, and that question is, what changes would you make if you were developing a screenplay for Eclipse?
Uh, Everyone always goes to movie, but I think television. Can we adapt
Sure,
it for television?
absolutely.
Yeah, let's change it because the episode, as I talked about the episodic nature, I think Eclipse is ripe for television as opposed to movie. To me, if I was adapting it for TV, it would slow down a lot. I would definitely think that the first four issues could be a whole season, and I would think it'd be fun to have the space to explore how this has adapted daily life and influenced it. I mean, you can read the books, and all sorts of questions come up, like what are they doing for food, and I can think of the cerebral answers, and I can try to hint at this, but to be able to have the room to actually show both the changes in terms of food and water and lifestyle, but more so I think the psychology of how it's affecting people. That's something you can't capture. It's so hard to capture. You probably could, but there's so much limited time in comics, right? I've only got 20 pages an issue. I've only got 80 pages. Some of the image books do a little bit more, but it's such a limited amount of time. But to be able, I think it'd be really fascinating to see the story play out and see how everybody is a little off because they're not getting sunlight. They're all a little they're a little unhinged, they're a little edgy, they're all a little they're not getting their vitamin D. No matter how many vitamin D supplements they're taking, they're not getting it. And to see how that plays out across society, I think that would be the most interesting thing to explore for me, seeing it adapted.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that. That would be a challenge, for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to feel the undercurrent of people just off a little bit. No one's. I think like a series like Walking Dead kind of captures that. They're all kind of. They're not like off in the same way, but there's certainly no one's found a way to like normalize their life. And then on the rare occasion they do stumble upon someone that has normalized this life, the reaction is, why have you guys normalized this life? This is not normal. You shouldn't normalize this life. And that's the correct way to look at it. So I think it'd be very interesting to explore more of the psychology. The problem is when you're doing a murder mystery, you're building a whole new world and you're trying to do all this stuff. You just don't have time to spend 3 or 4 pages an issue exploring that stuff. And so the nuance that could be explored kind of gets dropped for a faster paced action thriller. So I think if someone had the freedom to actually explore how it affects people's psychology, that would be really cool.
Nice. So we're gonna wrap it up here in a second. My final question I'm gonna ask you: is there a specific character? It could be any company from any time. What is there a certain comic character that if you could write this character, that's the end all be all for you? That's what you would want to do.
In terms of a pre-existing character.
A pre-existing character, yes.
I grew up on Wolverine. That would be pretty freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But people always ask, the thing about Wolverine is he's been done so well so many times. So, like if they called me up and they're like, we heard your answer and we want to give you a Wolverine one shot, I'd be like, man, I don't have it yet. I don't have the pitch on how to do it. I just know that would be a dream come true. I think there's some other pretty cool sci-fi. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool to write a Mad Max or a Decker or a Han Solo, some of your sci-fi rogues. That would be pretty awesome. But I'll put Wolverine at the top.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we're gonna close it on out. What would you like to plug, sir? Where can people find you?
Oh, I'm all over social media. They can find me Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on. It's all Zack Kaps, ZackKaps. And the only thing to plug is right now the Eclipse. The trade comes out February 15th, and hey, thanks to everybody who's supporting it. I appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I have one last surprise before we take it home, I guess.
Yes, sir.
We have friends who also have a podcast. It's called Superliminal Films. The gist of their podcast is every week they pick a movie and they remake it with a budget of $1 million, and they try to see where they can cut costs. It's kind of a fun exercise. I told them they have to do Eclipse, and they said they will.
What? Wait,
Yeah.
wait. They redo the story.
They take the existing movie, in this case the comic, and they say how
Yeah.
could we turn this into a movie for a budget of under $1 million. So
Wow,
it's
awesome.
it's a fun exercise. I told them they had to do it, and they said, "Please don't hurt me. We'll do it." So
Sweet.
so that'll
That's
be
great.
that'll be coming soon in the near future as well. Some more Eclipse love for you.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, tell them to definitely find me and hit me up and share it with me so I can share it with all the Eclipse fans. That sounds really really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. You were a pleasure.
Thank you, man. You guys too. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thank you. Make sure everybody goes and checks out Everything Eclipse.